practicing clinical nutritionist, and I have to tell you that it seems like I'm being called the watchdog of a party. And this actually happened to me recently when just 3 days ago I was at a gathering and people who thought I had left, and these ladies were in hearing distance, and I heard them say, "Okay, so Ishi has left, so we can go for the desserts." And trust me, that wasn't a compliment. So I do live this life where I'm supposed to be stopping people from eating. And I'm going to be talking to you about something which is very dear to me, my palate, which is sugar. I like my sweets, and perhaps I just know how to deal with them. And that's what I plan to share with you this evening. Having read so much, known so much about sugar, I have a feeling that we are a bit soft on sugar. We are a bit indulgent about sugar. Very often I have patients coming to my clinic and telling me, we know it all. We do it all right. And this was recently a couple. She said about her husband, he knows it all, he walks every day, but eats right, cannot handle his sweet tooth. It's just, meethe ka bahut shauk hai. And they had come for belly fat and some blood pressure issues and cholesterol issues. And he was not overweight. So yeah, then it makes me think that we have a soft stand on sugar. The same people, if they go to the doctor and talk about cigarette smoking, they're not going to say cigarette ka shauk hai. It's simply cigarette ki addiction hai. And there's a reason why we have this association with sugar. It's all over. Sugar has one of the most positive, happy memories for us. When we are born, when the baby is born, the first thing that is put on the tongue is honey. We celebrate with sugar. Every good news is muh meetha. Every religious ceremony, every prasad that you go and have in a temple is sweet. Sugar actually is everywhere. It's there in your face. You add it to your drinks, you add it to your tea, coffee, you drink it in your soft drinks and your bakery products. And you don't need me here to tell you where all sugar comes. It's hiding. It's hiding very often, and sometimes it comes under disguise of names. And high fructose corn syrup. You'll never imagine it to be sugar. But yes, we are having disguised sugar in healthy drinks, in our juices, in our healthy energy bars, and so many other products we don't even realize. Let me ask you, how many of you have your morning cup of tea with biscuits? Please be honest. I would imagine the entire hall, just a few. Okay, but for those who do, it's nice to know that a single cup of tea with 2 biscuits can amount to almost like 3 spoons of sugar, which is really half your permissible level every day, which has been outlined by WHO. Recently, just last year, WHO has clamped down on sugar recommendations by half straight away. From many years, it was 10% of the total calories, and last year it was slashed to 5% of the total calories, which an average person is supposed to consume, which is 2,000 calories. So this really works out to be 4 to 6 teaspoons a day. So you can imagine how much extra sugar is going into us in ways we don't even realize. And talking about calories, there's a very nice representation here, a quote which I read, which said, "These are tiny creatures that live in our closet, sewing our clothes to make them tighter." And I think sugar is best described as just that. It's not only linked to diabetes. And talking about diabetes, I need you to understand why such a strict stand has been taken by WHO to cut down the recommendations to half. You'll be shocked to know that every 7 seconds, one person dies of diabetes in the world. Obesity, we are battling a crisis of obesity. It's an epidemic. And it's just I don't know whether I'm not here to give you stats, but we are the diabetic capital of the world. And it's a wake-up call for all of us. So this sweet nothing, which is really what we call empty calories, is doing much more harm than we really realize. And you can see here, it's not only diseases, it's about energy. People think, okay, we need sugar for energy. But the fact is that that's not true. It actually depletes you of energy and makes you crave and causes hypoglycemia. So there are many myths. And besides, where does the sugar hide in the body is the belly, thanks to the insulin response. It creates preferential fat in the belly, which is also known as visceral fat, and leads to a horde of diseases, which perhaps some of which you know, but some of which you perhaps don't know. We understand metabolic diseases, high blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. But what about brain disease? What about mood swings? What about Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease has a new name, type 3 diabetes. So right from there to polycystic ovaries to hormonal problems, infertility, joint pains, and you have it all. I don't want to get into this space, even acne and dandruff. So while we know so much about it, why are we not able to do something about it? Why aren't we able to cut the cord? Because it gives us pleasure. We have sugar when we are hungry, when we are angry, when we are lonely, when we are tired. We reach out to comfort. It actually opens up the opioid centers in the brain, even more powerful than a drug does. And now I'm going to invite Karan, who's going to share his personal story with sugar.
Over the past few years, I've been noticing a slight paunch. Despite being overall thin and lanky, I was still getting a paunch year by year. I was eating right, I was exercising, but at the end of the day, I couldn't control that belly. So 6 months back, I decided to give up sugar. It's a bit daunting. It's there everywhere. So the first thing I did was to identify where the maximum sugar is coming from in my diet. That's my coffee. And for most people, 4 or 5 cups of coffee, a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of sugar in their coffee, and it adds up. I was adding up to 2 teaspoons of sugar in my coffee every day. I reduced that to 1.5, 1/4 teaspoon, and now nil. The second thing I did was to give up dessert. Well, that's a bit radical, but sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. And if you don't believe that sugar is addictive, when was the last time you actually had 1 teaspoon of dessert? It always goes to the second, it goes to a portion, and at times beyond. What I want to say is that we are not talking about sweet as a taste. We do need sweet in our diets, but sugar, which is the biggest problem. In the last 6 months, I have lost 7% of my body fat, and my belly fat has actually come down from 6 to 2%. So to end it, I would say that instead of having your traditional dessert, which is laden with sugar, try something like a piece of dark chocolate, or figs, or a date. It's not that difficult. Thank you.
And I'm very tempted to add here that for those of you who would, after this session, perhaps try and cut back on sugar, don't think that you're perfect every day. First of all, it's sugar that we are talking about, not sweet. So like he said, indulge your sweet tooth in a healthy way. And you may not be perfect every day. Use the common sense principle, which we apply in healthy eating, balance. If you have excessed and gone for that entire dessert, you have the opportunity of balancing it the next day or the next to next day by either eating low carb or less carb or exercising. And make sure that the diet in general is healthy. It has enough plant food. It has adequate protein. You choose better carbohydrates, low glycemic carbohydrates. You address nutritional deficiencies and make sure to do not go in for artificial sweeteners. So the next time you dig into your coffee loaded with sugar or that cookie jar, just think of this meaty churi. Sugar is your meaty churi. You love it, but it kills you slowly and softly, and it's addictive.
Maybe now.
Thank you so much.